Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Email Marketing Uncovered. I'm Lisa Marino, the Senior Marketing Manager for AccuData, and today's webinar moderator. Before we get started, I'd like to review a few important items with you. First, any questions can be submitted throughout today's webinar, but will be covered at the end of the presentation. Please use the Q&A panel within the GoToWebinar platform to submit your questions. If you have any questions that we don't cover, feel free to email them to info@accudata.com for a prompt reply, and you can also call your AccuData representative at 1-800-732-3440, and please stay tuned for a special offer exclusively for today's webinar attendees. I want to introduce you to our wonderful presenters today, Nate Patel and Erica Serrano. Nate is our Senior Vice President of Sales and Service, and he's been with AccuData since 2002. He's responsible for all aspects of sales, business development, and customer service across our robust reseller market. Erica is our Product Manager for Email Marketing Services, and she's been with AccuData for 2 years, and she holds an MBA and is responsible for AccuData's email-related product and service offerings. So Nate, at this point, I'm going to turn things over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, everyone, and thanks for taking time out to join us today. Our hope is to spend about 30 to 40 minutes focusing on email as a complementary marketing channel for your end-user clients. Most in attendance are resellers, either printers, agencies, mailers, and we hope this session and future sessions like it are going to generate ideas you can take back to your clients, increase revenue opportunities for your business. So today, first, we're going to talk about why this channel is too important to ignore and too valuable to execute poorly. Next, we're going to discuss how email can be a reinforcement for direct mail. And finally, Erica is going to discuss some examples of end-user pain points, email-based solutions you can offer your clients. So the first topic is this purchasing power of email. Why email? That's the issue at hand. In the U.S. alone, we're approaching 290 million Internet users, with the majority of them having access to email. 56% of brand responders will interact via computer. That number jumps to 78% when you add in smartphones and tablets. There is a 130% increase in spend from consumers who receive email offers. Now, direct mail is still the response king, and nobody isn't disputing that. But we are living in a digital world, and we need to find other ways to communicate with our clients that complement that direct mail. So as we stated, not a replacement for direct mail, but many times your end users have had a poor experience with email. In most cases, they were trying to replace it. They were trying to replace direct mail or another segment with email as a standalone entity. Email should be positioned as a complement to mail programs, either with existing mailers or even when pitching new clients. Email should be part of a package. This is not taking revenue away from the printing channel. We should think of this as additional revenue made possible by the complement of email. I'm now going to turn things over to Erica. We have some recent best practices borrowed from a DM News article on the same topic. Erica will then talk through case studies that align with those best practices. Erica?
Thank you so much, Nate, and thank you all for sharing a piece of your day with us today. It's a pleasure to be here. Let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk through when you're considering the combination of email and direct mail is your list. And the most important thing is to ensure that your list has the email and postal component for each recipient to maximize those impressions. So we're actually going to go over different options on the list in the next slide. But just keep in mind that the most important elements are going to be quality and freshness, meaning the age of the records themselves. So again, we'll talk about that in the next slide. The second element is timing. Consumers need to be touched multiple times to encourage engagement and response. And those touches have to be relevant to them. We are all creatures of habit, and generally, need to see things several times before we start recognizing them, before we start seeing that brand recognition resonate within us, so that we can start asking questions in our mind. So the timing and the number of touches is important. And number 3 is the branding. Maintaining the consistency in both postal and email creatives is critical. And that means using the same color scheme, the same images, the slogans, the tone, the context. Basically, the look and feel has to be the same for your clients to kind of recognize and become familiar with your message and with your branding. Now that we've gone through those key considerations, I'd like to share with you and kind of uncover common email marketing challenges that you and your clients might be facing, and we can talk through those. The first challenge is marrying email and direct. So how do we do that? And the way to do that is identifying email addresses for the postal audience that your client has been targeting. There's 3 examples that I want to go over with you on how to accomplish this. The first is match and deploy. What is match and deploy? It's when you're expanding your client reach by matching your postal records to an opted-in, permission-based email address database. Then that source that you utilize deploys your beautifully crafted marketing message to those matched messages. So one of the things that I want to note with a match and deploy is that records are not released. What you're doing is you're asking the source to match to your postal and email them with your marketing message. If you or your client is requiring email records, the physical records to be released, then that will be considered an email append, and I'll cover that in a little bit. Number 2 is email prospecting. That's also known in the space as email acquisition, and it's also called conquest, so whichever term may be familiar to you. And this is when you want to just completely maximize the volume of your client exposure by adding email records, whether they're matched to postal or not. You just kind of give them your demographics and the criteria that you're looking for in the target audience, and that is what email prospect acquisition or conquest email is. And number 3, the third way is e-postal, and that's when you don't have a postal file and you're looking to seek acquisition postal and email records at once to start a brand new campaign for you or your client. So let's take an example of one of the methods that I just said, and let's go over a real life example, a real life case. AccuData's client was an agency, and their end client was a nationally recognized auto club. And their challenge was that they were doing direct mail solicitations only, and they weren't getting as many new memberships as they would like. It was stagnant. The solution at that point was for us to match demographically their specific postal data to email prospect lists. And we helped increase the number of impressions per recipient and making sure that they had inbox placement. So that's one of the things that we were able to help them with, is matching their postal to an email list that is opted in to receive those types of messages that met their criteria with matching postal. And of course, the last element is to ensure inbox placement. The results of that, the client saw 1,243 conversions. That equaled to be a 2% response rate. And additionally, for this client, it doubled their responses and their conversions from just direct mail because they were able to combine email with it. And with this client, we're also able to provide creative consultation strategies. We did some design tweaks to their creative, and they were able to acquire over $90,000 in the 1,243 conversions. And that's just considering the first year, not the lifetime value of that client. So that's one of our match and deploy cases. Let's uncover challenge number 2, and that is customer email deployment. So offer your clients increased visibility and engagement with email marketing. I see this missed opportunity often. I want to remind you, to remind your clients to use the data that they have already. I see cases come through where there's a database somewhere that's been stagnant, not used, and it's just getting older and older and colder. So this is just a reminder of that missed opportunity, because, and also when you're doing more prospect or more conquest type marketing, that loyalty database will automatically grow as well. So what you want to do is follow it up by customer email deployments. Customer email deployments will engage, you'll be able to engage new customers through the email channel. Remember, you might remember what Nate just went over, saying that that more money is spent by an average of 138% if consumers are receiving email marketing along with their direct mail. So what email does is gives you that new customer channel, and it also provides a quick method to make an impact. We're not waiting for direct mail pieces to be created or dropped. You can complement that by doing a quick message that can make an impact on foot traffic or on an e-commerce sale to hit a revenue number for that month, you name it. You'll be able to see that immediate engagement and real-time responses. The last thing that I want to talk about on this particular slide is understanding which email address should not be deployed to. And I'm going to stop here for one moment and let you know what I mean by this. What I mean is email validation. So if your client does have an email database, please make sure that they are validating it. This process will help identify bad records, undeliverable records, malicious intent records, which will save not only money for your client, but it will also help in the reputation that that brand has, because no company would ever benefit or want to be known as an email spammer. So if you have your list verified or validated, it will just put you and your client in a much better position and also save you money at the same time. So one of the cases that I wanted to go over, just to kind of give you an example here on email deployment in action, is AccuData's client, which is a printer, had their end client, which is Help Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electric. And their challenge was that Help wanted to utilize their customer database, their customer email addresses, and send them trigger emails that they could be used to kind of jointly with their direct mail reminders. And they needed this so that they could have their paying customers engage and book appointments for the services that they had already purchased. So the solution to that was for AccuData to do email data management and regular email deployments through AimConnect. AimConnect is AccuData's email deployment platform. But let me go back to explain what does email data management mean? What does that mean in that solution? And what we did was we performed the validation that I was saying is so critical using our proprietary software, AccuValid. And based on that, we were able to determine what records needed to be refreshed, what records were invalid, where we could mail, so that we can then start drafting a HTML we built for them using the elements of their website, and sent out emails over the course of a year to get better engagements. And the results, of course, as you can see from the slide, that over the course of 12 months, helps customers' engagement increase to well over the industry standard rates for opens and clicks. But what's more important to you and to your clients and to Help as a client is that they were able to book more service appointments and were able to recognize their revenue.
You know, there's an important point here that's not even listed in this case study, is that the misconception that these loyalty marketing campaigns only work with big name brands. And that's just not the case. You can see there's an example of a small local city or regional mailer, and you know, they're communicating with their client base using email and having great success.
Thank you for mentioning that, Nate. So one of the things that we helped, actually the client help, was determine when to send email messages. And I wanted to include this slide in here just as a tidbit of information for you and your clients, because, like I said in the beginning, we're creatures of habit, and we need to understand when is the best time for the best engagement of email. And if you follow along with me on this slide in the top left, it says email opens by time of day. And if you can look with me, you can see that there's an upward trend between noon and about 4 p.m. And if you look right to the right of that, you can see that the opens by day of week are highest on Thursday. So if you kind of put those two together, you can see that if you deploy on Thursdays between 12 and 4, you will see the highest engagement in open rates, followed by Wednesday between 12 and 4, and so on. One of the things in the bottom centered, it talks about the reporting time frame. You're going to see the most engagement on an email marketing message between 1 and 3 days. There can be reporting that takes place for 7 days, 14 days. You may have a limited time offer that's even less than 3 days to kind of impact some foot traffic or some revenue on your e-commerce site. But for the majority, and generally speaking, the engagement of email is between 1 and 3 days. Excuse me. And this information is based on consumer behavior in general. So that means that it's accounting for B2B campaigns, business to business, and it's also accounting for business to consumer.
But what's very cool is that Erica's team compiles stats like this every month for our sales team. Erica's team does hundreds and hundreds of campaigns for clients, both prospecting and loyalty. Throughout the year, they compile this and they break it down by vertical segments. And so you could actually reach out to your sales rep and get information about best practices that are a little bit more specific than even what we're showing here on the screen.
Thanks yeah, we'd love to share those with you. Let's move on to our third challenge that we see often, and that is digital creative development. Remember, it's important to develop email marketing creative that's complementary to your client's existing print creative. So I know we kind of spoke in the beginning about having it be consistent. Create a layout that encourages engagement, images, buttons, links, copy that's thoughtfully placed to trigger emotion in your clients. Design with the email recipient's device in mind, and that's called mobile responsive HTML code. You want to make sure that the creative that you're sending is something that can be seen easily on whatever device it's opened on, and that's mobile responsiveness. And of course, apply industry and design best practices, such as making sure that the HTML is 600 pixels wide, again, that it's mobile responsive, and one important factor is that it has gone through spam scoring and can make it to the inbox. Because let's face it, if this email is not getting to the inbox, we are all wasting our time and we are all wasting money. We need to make sure that it's getting through spam filters and getting to the inbox so that they can receive your client's message. I wanted to show you some examples to kind of reiterate and show you. This one I thought was a perfect example to show you. This was a printer that came to us and said, help, we can design print all day long, but not HTML for email. So of course we can help. They sent over their postcard, and our HTML coders converted it to this beautiful HTML on the right, where you can see that the logos and the branding and the look and feel were there, but then there were buttons added for calls to action that are visible. Let's move to the next example that I want to show you. This is more of a comparison. So really quick, just kind of look at your screen really quick and think to yourself, which of these two catches your eye first? Which one is more manageable? Which one can you digest more if you only had a few seconds to look at it? Because remember, with email marketing, you really do only have a few seconds. If you were able to have them open that envelope which in the email world, the envelope is the subject line. Now you've got them looking at the piece. You only have a few seconds, and in this one I wanted to compare so that you can see that sometimes it's just better to have some imagery and some buttons like the Learn More and the Connect or the Contact that you can see on the right side so that it's more digestible to the person receiving that email. As with this example, we wanted to we also have had printers and agencies come to us that already have existing creative, but for one reason or another, they want to enhance it or they want to make some tweaks to get better engagement and better response. So we're also able to take what's already an existing email and creatively optimize it. And in this case, we used what you just saw that was heavy text and turned it into a mobile responsive email that was pulling in elements from their website. And we kind of used our creative expertise to pull out some some triggers that would maybe direct a response, an immediate response for the people reading this. And I think I just have a couple more examples I just wanted to show you, kind of go through the next two slides quickly just to show you the different templates that we have and the different things that we can offer and build from scratch. These two are auto-related. These next two are, one of them is a golf memberships and publications too, just to give you an idea of some of the creative examples. There are a few other email services that I can touch on quickly in case they ever come up as a fit for your clients. You can kind of speak to them and use this presentation as a guide. Email Append. I did mention this briefly. This is what I mentioned earlier when you actually receive the email records physically. This is identifying email addresses for your clients' current customers using a specialized matching process that confirm their desire to receive email communication. So that specialized matching process is key. You want to make sure that you're partnering up for an email append with somebody, with someone that can provide a recency and frequency algorithm to your email so that you're getting fresh data. Remember, the most important thing is fresh and quality. This next one is reverse email append. That's if you do have email addresses and for some reason or another your client does not have the postal. That's also another service. And then email reactivate. Email reactivate is a process that's ideal after validating the email addresses, because once you have a list and you validate it, then you're going to be seeing some codes and you're going to say, okay, I have this many non-valid emails. So now what? You have a postal record and you have a non-valid email address. You need email reactivate, which is going to reactivate, kind of scrub the sources of opt-in data and give you a newer email address for that particular person. And I think that concludes our email services, our additional email services, and I want to thank you. But this time I want to turn it back over to Nate.
Yeah, thanks, Erica. That's great stuff. You know, folks, AccuData likes to think of itself as a partner to its reseller clients, you know, even if that means being the silent partner behind the scenes. So we recognize that email, for some of you on the phone, not all of you, but for some of you can be a scary place, especially if you don't have the internal resources to help your clients. There is no pride in authorship. We are happy to jump on the phone with you, and you can introduce us as your email experts, and not even bring AccuData into the picture. So I would encourage you to reach out and talk with your sales reps. We've got product sheets and capabilities presentations that really deep dive into any one of the solutions we may have just touched on today. But just get a discussion going, because what we're trying to do is help you help your client, and in the end, add additional revenue for both parties.
All right, great. Nate and Erica, thank you so much for uncovering the power of email marketing for everyone today. Just so you guys know, as our thanks for attending the webinar, you're going to receive a copy of our latest reseller resource guide. It is called 10 Steps to Successful Email Marketing. It has a great list of tips and tricks in there for email marketing that you can also share with your clients. Let's see. I want to go over a couple of questions that have come in throughout the presentation. Nate and Erica, we've got a few lined up for you, so let's see. Oh, here's a good question. Erica, what's the typical turnaround time on creative services?
Oh, that's a good question. With our teams, we'd like to have at least 48 to 72 hours to turn around final creative. We like to keep it to about 48 hours, but 48 to 72 hours is the safe zone.
Okay. Let's see. Ashley wants to know, what is the recommended length for an email subject line?
I can take that one. That's a good question too. For mobile devices, see, this is where we kind of look at what Nate was telling us earlier about how many people are really looking to their email either on their computer versus their smartphones. So if you have a subject line, you can use up to 70 characters for the desktop, but just know that you have to make an impact in the beginning part of that subject line, because for mobile, you only have 39 characters to work with. Does that make sense? So it's 70 total, 39 on mobile. So if it has to exceed 39 characters, just make sure that you can get the main idea that you want them to know in those first 39.
Okay, perfect. I do see a lot of questions coming in, too, about whether or not these slides will be available. We will have a copy of this recorded presentation available to you guys next week, so look out for that as well. You can also email your rep or call your rep at any time to get a copy of the guide, or they'll be sending out the link to the presentation next week. A couple other questions came in. What about, we touched on mobile optimization. So why is that important?
I was hoping somebody would ask that. It's a good question. So again, the latest studies, even DMA, the Direct Marketing Association, has put this out. We're almost at 60% of people, consumers, opening on a mobile device. So what mobile optimization is when the way that the HTML code is coded, it's using queries so that it understands what device is opening the email, and it will automatically adjust to that device. So that ensures that your client's email creative is designed with mobile in mind, because that is where we are trending to continue to open the emails.
Okay.
No one wants to get an email and have to pinch and squint to kind of see it, because there's actually studies out that have shown that once you have to make your email recipients open and start squinting and looking and trying to open and resize it, you're losing the engagement.
Perfect. I'm sure that helped. Nate, I think I'm going to toss this one over to you. I have a client who has asked about email, but I'm not comfortable having that conversation with them. Will a member of your team be available to help?
Yeah, and that one might have been typed in before I mentioned that at the end of the presentation, but we are always happy to help. That's sort of what we, just take the most pride in at AccuData. We can have a discussion with you to the point where you're comfortable discussing it with your client, or we can be part of the conversation, and we can do so incognito. You don't have to introduce us as AccuData. You can just say that we're your email experts, or you can say this is our trusted partner, AccuData, and introduce us that way as well. And we're still obviously working through you, the reseller.
Okay, perfect. Let's see, another question here. How do you validate an email list?
Yeah, these are great questions. Okay, so there are various validation sources out there. The one that we have that's proprietary to AccuData is called AccuValid. And when you provide, let's say, the list that you want to validate to your salesperson, that salesperson sends it through an internal process that gets it sent through AccuValid. AccuValid will then determine a code for that specific record. AccuValid puts out 9 or 10 codes to give you and your clients insight on their list. And those codes range from it completely invalid to role-based, which we see a lot in business-to-business records, where it's info at instead of Nate Patel at. That's role-based. To catch-all domains is another code. To disposable domains, to malicious domains. It kind of gives you insight on, hey, this is where you need to kind of be, and this is where you should be emailing, because these other ones are going to end up ruining your reputation.
Good.
Nate, there's a couple of questions coming in about pricing and how would you price this to your customer?
Yeah, we can actually, because we can actually help resellers with recommended markups. The pricing itself is going to be, it's going to be all over the board. There's going to be different pricing schemes for match and deploy, for email append, for different size of list, for true e-postal campaigns. So the best way to go would be just like you would normally get a quote from any of your sales reps or service team with just a quick email kind of describing what you want to do for the client, or if you have an idea, or just get on the phone and talk through it with them. And they're happy to discuss that with you. And then they can give you probably some standard retail rates, and so you know what to mark that up to.
Okay.
You mentioned that you were on the webinar, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Let's see, Nate. I have a client that is using a different email deployment provider. What's the benefit of working with AccuData?
Well,
kind of answer this along.
One of the main differences would be the fact that you've got access to Erica and her entire team of digital experts, and so they can manage the entire campaign for you, which means that we're doing the work. So I think that would be the biggest difference. There's obviously a ton of differences within our application, but we could probably provide that offline better. But the main value add there is that we're doing the work for you, and that our team is going to be consulting every step of the way.
Thank you, Nate, very much. Let's see. Are there any minimum quantities for append and validate?
Good question again. We do have some minimum orders, but we have seen pending and validation lists of 500 up to millions of records. So that would be something that they can kind of contact the sales rep as well.
That's a good. I mean, it's a good wide range. There's usually minimum costs involved, and so it might be cost prohibited to send a very small list. But getting the specific quantities over to your rep, they can answer that question pretty fast for you.
Okay. Can the email append be done to data provided by them?
Yes, absolutely. When you send over your postal file, that's what we'll do, and we'll append email addresses. Good questions.
Let's see. Did we go over the recommended length for an email subject line?
Yep, we covered that one.
And I can say it again for the person that just asked. It's 70 characters total for desktop subject lines, and then on mobile it gets cut down to 39 characters just because it's a smaller device. So what you want to do is make sure that you stay within 70, but kind of hit hard with your first 39 characters what you're trying to say.
Well, here's a good one. I've heard that the word free should not be used in subject lines. Why is that?
That is a good one. So you may remember from the beginning of the presentation when I spoke about with one of the cases that we kind of you need to make sure that it gets sent through spam scoring. Spam scoring is a score that gets projected based on the content of your email. So when you put together your email, including your subject line, your from name, the content of the email itself, it goes through a spam filter. And if it has spam trigger words, which is what the word free is, it's a spam trigger word, 9 out of 10 times the receiving domain will reject your email. So when I was pushing inbox placement, make sure that you get inbox placement is for that reason. You want to make sure that you're working with someone who has reputation in deployment so that the word free isn't an issue, and that it goes through the filter and into the inbox of the recipient. So these are spam trigger words such as free. There's other ones like discount, free download, guarantee, sale, special. Those are all the words that are associated, unfortunately, with the spam world. And your internet service providers of consumers will try their hardest to protect and respect the privacy of their email address holders, and that's why they have the spam filters in place. So we definitely put out some great information on subject lines, what words are impacting inbox rate and what not to, that you can inquire about.
One more question on the table. I just wanted to mention this one because I think it's good to note about images in your emails and them requiring approval to download. Just to make a note, as you saw in some of the emails that we had, if you're going to use call to action buttons, also create hyperlinks in your emails so that if an image does not show up in an email, they will still be able to see the hyperlink that's in there to click on that and go to a landing page or whatever else you may be directing them to. And that's it. We are out of time on our webinar. I want to thank you all very, very much for joining us today. Again, a copy of this presentation will be sent to you as a link so you can watch it again and again. And look forward to our next month's webinar, which is going to be focusing on the travel industry and the data involved with that. So again, we look forward to seeing you guys next month. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact your rep. You can email them. You can call our 1-800 number. And that's it. So have a terrific day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.